long talking about tonight, but there's something that's really important. I want to talk to you guys tonight about growth. I want to talk to you about church growth and the growth of this youth group. And I want you to answer a question for me. Does growth equal success? Think about that for a minute. Does the success, how do you measure success when it comes to a youth group, when it comes to a church? Is it based on how much they grow? Is it based on how big we get? I kind of just gave it away. Conrad, what do you think?
Well, a church doesn't necessarily have to grow to succeed, but you are growing spiritually and stuff, and just congregation growing is just a part of doing the right thing.
It's a part of doing the right thing. Tanya?
Growing spiritually. As a congregation growing spiritually.
That equals success?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about growth in numbers.
How many lives you touch?
Okay. Explain that.
How many
Quiet, Riley.
how many people are saved throughout the weeks?
Okay, I'm talking about growth. Does how big the church get, does that equal success?
No.
Okay?
I think that it doesn't matter how big you are, it's what you get done.
What do you mean by that?
You can have 100 people come to church every Sunday and not get one thing done. It's like I'm going to use your garden analogy.
I have a garden analogy?
Yeah.
Cool, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to be total. If
Sure.
you plant a garden, and you don't water it, it's just going to sit there and die. But if you take enough time explaining what needs to be done to the people, it's watering the garden, helping it grow, giving it
I said that?
what it needs. You
Yeah,
said it,
yeah.
Steve, yeah.
Something like that.
Cool.
You said it.
Like, let's say like 100 people come to church. 50 of those people just go home with their normal life and say, hey, I go to church. But the other 50, they actually take something from it. If you can get that to progress upon the weeks and months and years, that those 100 people are attending the church, if you get 100 of those people that attend it to continue on and be better Christians, that's success.
That's a good point. Does success equal growth in terms of numbers? No, it doesn't. Okay? And I think that's a huge misconception in churches. Because the more people, the more what? Who said money? It's true, isn't it? The more people you get, the richer the church is. Okay? So automatically, that's how successful you can base the church on. Okay? There's a lot of people who refuse to come to a Christian church because they feel it's all about what? Money. Okay? There's a lot of people who will. Okay? The cool thing about this church is that we don't care how poor we are. And I think that's neat. We have just enough money to pay pastor and to be comfortable and to have a growing thingy going on in here, but it's not like every month we're sitting there about how to get rich, or we're hounding people about tithing so we can get more money, blah, blah, blah. If we would do that, I wouldn't want to be here. And I think that's the really neat thing about this church, is that we're not focused on money, okay? And we're not focused on just strictly numbers. Is growth a good thing?
Yes.
It's an amazing thing, isn't it? Why is it an amazing thing, okay? Does it show that we're doing a really good job as people?
No.
What do you think, Tanya?
I think that it shows that it's how God's moving in the people that are already here. So
Yes.
the people that are coming can see that.
I thought we were going to take a while to figure that out now. God is using us, isn't he? To show church growth, okay? Bringing people here. Is it by coincidence? Is that what we believe? Do we believe that Josh showed up here by coincidence? No.
We believe it's because of John.
We believe it's because of somebody else that brought him here, right? Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
I don't believe that I showed up on this church's doorstep in the year 2000 because of coincidence, all right? I believe that the Winterses drugged me here and to play in their band and to play basketball with them. But I don't believe that was a coincidence. I don't believe that was a mistake. I believe there was a reason for it. I believe there was a purpose for it. Okay? That's so cool. It's really neat to see that Christ is using this youth group. That's why we're growing. We're growing spiritually. We're growing in numbers. But I want you to understand one corny phrase tonight that applies. What's wrong?
My foot felt like when she's kicking.
You look high. You look, seriously, look at her face. She's just staring at me like, I didn't mean to be funny there. Man, you guys are funny. This is a really corny phrase, but it's a phrase we've heard before, and it's a phrase that applies, okay? What we need to be stressing at this church is quality and not quantity, okay? And that's what you guys said. That's what Conrail and Tanya mentioned, okay? I think in order to have a really strong youth group, we need to have strong members of the youth group. And what I mean by that is not having 6,000 of us in here, but having people who are here that are committed and dedicated, not to the youth group, not to me, but to who? To Christ and serving Christ, all right? And making a commitment to do our... What is your problem?
He's trying to hit my foot, and I'm trying to move it. How can he even hit your foot?
Whenever you're ready, Rachel. Okay. You are so funny.
How can you even touch your foot with the sweatshirt? And he's going like that, he's hitting it. I'm sorry.
All right, so are we getting this? Okay? One thing that we need to understand is that in order for this youth group to grow, and I'm doing this really quick, but you guys are getting it. In order for this church to grow, okay, God needs to use us in that way. It's not by our own heart, by our own will, by our own attempts that this church is growing, that this youth group is growing. It's by Christ. It's by the fact that he is using us. We're allowing him to use us to bring people here. Okay? I've said it before. Jesse has brought an infinite amount of people to this youth group. And that is awesome. Is it because Jesse's just this sly genius? No, it's not. Jesse's like, no, it's not. Okay? It's because God is using him. God is creating the opportunities. And to Jesse's, good job, Jesse, because Jesse's saying, hey, I'm going to take advantage of these opportunities. All right? I'm not going to crawl into a hole and hide when somebody mentions the name of Christ or when my friends talk about doing something else. Jesse's going to be like, hey, why don't you come to youth group Wednesday night? All right? This is what I do on Wednesday nights. He's not going to lie and say, well, I go bowling Wednesday nights. No, he comes to youth group, and he invites friends to come to youth group. How many of you came to youth group because of Jesse? A lot of you. What? What? He bribed him with food, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. All right? So what we need to understand tonight, what I want you guys to understand, what I want to stress to you guys, is that growth is an amazing thing. Okay? A church that's growing is a church that God is working in. And I think that's really cool. Do we agree with that? Do we agree with that? Okay? I think it's really cool that God is using this youth group to touch lives. And I think that's awesome. But what we need to understand tonight is that this youth group will only go as far as the commitment level of this youth group. Okay? You could have 75 people in this room, but if 65 of them don't give a crap about the fact that they're here or why they're here, youth group's not going to get anywhere. Okay? But one cool thing is that I see is that there's 40 of you showing up every week, and you want to be here. You want to serve God. All right? You're not just here to hang out with your girlfriend or to hang out with friends because you don't see them that often or to get away from your parents. You're here because you want to learn. You want to worship. You want to fellowship. And that's cool. And that was not always the case at 13th Tribe Youth Group. When I first started to come here, this wasn't a youth group. It was a hangout. Okay? 12 of us showed up and we played basketball until Mel screamed at us to come inside